Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, afternoon tea. And today in the studio, I have a beautiful girl here who has been a self-published author for children's books and has a beautiful message just before the holidays. So I'm going to just read a little bit on the beautiful Jenna Seguin on the Thrifty Elf, and then we'll get into a beautiful conversation on Tea Time and get the message out there on why we should repurpose old toys to new, with a positive message for all of the kids out there today. So Jenna lives in the Ottawa, Ontario area, and she works in human resources. She has a son who will be 11 months in November. Alongside the birth of her son, she has been making small changes in her family's lifestyle to reduce their waste. This is one of the things that inspired her to write Thrifty the Elf. She wanted to start a tradition with her son where every year he can decide if he wants to donate any of his old toys, and he will get a second-hand gift from Thrifty under the tree. On the writing side, she has always dreamt of a career as a writer, journalist, and although she has never made a career out of it, she has always considered herself a writer, even if it's just for her eyes. She's decided to illustrate Thrifty the Elf herself using Procreate on her iPad. She has always been fairly above average when it comes to art and design, so she just took advantage of her natural talent, even though she hasn't drawn anything since high school, and it was her first time ever drawing using an iPad. She also decided to self-publish her children's book on Amazon. It was a straightforward process, and she is very happy with the book's quality. Self-publishing allowed her to have full auditorium over her book. If I said that word wrong, I'm sorry. And illustrations. She got to have a lot of fun with it, and adds a bunch of her personal references throughout the book through the illustrations. Children's book titled Thrifty the Elf and the Blue Bicycle. The book summary: Thrifty the Elf finds a broken bicycle at a thrift shop and fixes it to give to a child for Christmas. The goal of the book is to normalize revising second-hand toys for Christmas and to encourage children to donate their old toys. The overall theme is to promote sustainability and reduce waste at Christmas. So, welcome, Jenna, to Tea Time. I am so honored to
Hi.
have you here today. So, could you share a little bit on who Jenna is, and then we'll get into the story of Thrifty the Elf and why you wanted to create this new family tradition?
Yeah, sure. Well, myself, I recently just had my first child last December. So I'm a new mom, and it's been an exciting time. Before that, I've mostly been focused on academics and my career. So this has been a pretty big life change for me. But I was, happy to have my son and happy to have a full year on maternity leave with him and tap into my creative side with this children's book.
Awesome. So, you in your bio it says that you've always been creative and always above average. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I guess what I mean by that is, and not just myself, my sisters as well. I have two older sisters. We're all very creative. In school, for example, we were always the kids who would be, we'd win drawing contests or art contests in school because we just had a vision and could translate that vision on paper, whatever it was, even when it came to just like making things or designing things, even like home design in our houses and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It just strangely came naturally to myself. And like I said, for my sisters, we're oddly just blessed with that natural talent to pick things up like that.
So, have you always been a person who likes to recycle things?
Um, yes, and I was part of the generation in elementary school where um, teachers would always put out the theme to reduce, reuse, recycle. So, even as a child, that's what I was taught. And as I grew up, I learned more about it. And yeah, so it's just always been something at the forefront of my mind and in what I choose to do and what I choose to consume. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I always like to recreate and use the old and bring the new, right? Like refinish furniture. That's I love bringing old to new. So, what was your
Mhm.
journey like through the process of writing this book for Thrifty the Elf?
Sure. Um, well, I guess it really started, even before I had thought of the idea for a children's book. It really started for me at Christmas, where I guess for me, the Christmas joy was always a bit clouded. And when I say clouded, I mean clouded by like plastic and packaging and all the waste that's generated from gift giving. So in my mind, I always knew that I wanted to start a tradition with my family when I had kids, um, to do something that would reduce our waste during that time. And where the book really came in, one of my good friends, Erica, uh, texted me earlier this year and said, "You should write children's books. Like, you would be really good at this." And I kind of laughed and said, "Sure, I'll take a crack at it." And for a day, I think it was, tried to write out rhymes and try to develop characters, and I got nowhere. So I gave it up. And then a few months later, I believe it was sometime in July, Thrifty the Elf as a character just popped into my head, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is my idea. It came out of nowhere. I don't know why I was thinking about Christmas in July. But it just popped into my head, and I messaged my friend and I said, okay, I have this idea, a story about an elf named Thrifty who shops at secondhand stores and buys used toys to give to kids for Christmas. And of course, she encouraged me to pursue that idea. And so, as far as the writing process goes, it really just started with with the idea of Thrifty the Elf and connecting that to the tradition I wanted to start with my own family. And the writing was actually the easy part. It only took me maybe about an hour to write.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's only about 600 words to start, but the story just came flowing out of me. I don't even know where it came from. It just I just had momentum after having that idea, and and I just created this story. And then I probably spent about another hour to revise it and to get other people to take a look at it and whatnot. So the writing process itself was, it just came very naturally.
So the writing came quickly, but the drawing took time, right?
Oh yes, yes, that took the most time for sure. And I wasn't even, well, when I started writing, I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with it and what I was going to do with illustrations. It was actually, the same good friend of mine who suggested that I write children's books. She asked me if I've ever heard of Procreate, which is a digital art app. And I said no, but I looked into it, and after I watched some tutorials on YouTube about it, I decided, okay, like I can totally do this. I can draw my own illustrations for this book. And so I did. I did have to purchase an iPad and an iPencil. I take very good of my electronics. I don't like, electronics is another big waste that we have in our home. So I take very good care of my electronics. And I did have an iPad, but it was from, I think like 2014 or something like that. So it's very old. So the software wasn't compatible with Procreate. So I had to update my iPad and of course get a pencil so that I could actually draw on the iPad. And that was my biggest expense for the book. But once I had that, it took me about a month to illustrate all the pictures and the cover page.
Oh, that's not bad. So an hour to write the story and a month to do the drawing. So that's not bad. So see what you can do in a month. You can create a book. So how did you find out on how to self-publish yourself?
Well, I did my research. Even actually before I started looking into doing my own illustrations, I was looking into publishers and where I could submit my manuscript, and they all seemed very limiting, and I really wanted to have more autonomy over my book and the direction it went and what the characters look like, and I knew I wasn't through a publisher, so I looked into self-publishing platforms, and I read reviews, and Amazon had the best reviews for that, and especially for children's book as well. So so I did my research, and I decided to go with Amazon. It was a really quick and easy process. The website itself is very intuitive on how to assemble your book. When I say I made it all myself, I did it from the writing to the illustrations to compiling the book. I did it all and submitted it on Amazon's publishing website, and
So what message would you like to give to anybody who would like to self-publish a child's book? Because I know there's a difference between a children's book and an adult's book, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like I would like to say that anyone could write a children's book, but I'm not sure if that's true. I wasn't even sure if I could write one. I just had some momentum and I followed it. So my advice might be, if you might just wait for something to come to you, like some story or some moral that you want to tell through a children's book, and once that idea comes, ride the wave and keep at it, and you could have yourself a children's book, maybe within a month, maybe longer. Um,
So how long did the whole process take? Like it took an hour for the storyline. It took 30 days for the graphics. But how long with all of it all together, like the self-publishing, getting it out there, getting it on Amazon? How long did
mhm.
that all take?
Well, I started the writing near the end of July, and I spent the month of August illustrating, and then the month of September, I guess I kind of took a bit of a break
Okay.
because I had spent so much time illustrating during August. But then I kind of chipped away at the process in September, and I got all the copyright book and the character. I got the ISBN for the book. So I kind of did those things, and then I compiled it, and I knew I wanted to publish it in October because at that point everything was finished, and I really wanted the book in my hand. So all in all, I would maybe say about maybe 2.5 months.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So anybody who's watching now or watching the replay later, like she said, under 90 days you can write a book. You just never know where your life will take you. And I tell this to my children all the time. You never know where 1 year will take you. So do you have any
Mm-hmm.
plans on writing a second edition of Thrifty the Elf?
I think so. I'm still waiting for the next great idea to come to me. I'm not sure um, what I guess environmental topic Thrifty might be tackling next, but I dedicated this book to my son. Do plan on having a second, so I imagine I would need to write a second book and dedicate that to our second child.
Well, I kind of like that there's a series, right? And you have like a special message so that children need to know about the climate change and they need to know about recycling and repurposing and that, especially with all of the garbage that is out there, you know? So I really enjoyed reading on what Thrifty the Elf does.
Mm-hmm.
So you want this to be a family tradition. Now, do you want this to be a tradition in all homes or in just your home, in your families, like in your
Mm-hmm.
family? Or do you want to open it up to everybody out there?
Well, I mean, my goal always was at the end of the day to create a story for my son that would put a little bit more magic into the idea of getting secondhand gifts for Christmas. One of my fears might be that my son gets a secondhand toy, and then he goes to school and he asks himself, why are all these kids getting brand new toys and I'm getting these secondhand toys? It would break my heart to see my son, kind of question that. So I wanted to bring a little bit of magic in that for him to say like, oh, it's secondhand, but it was especially picked for me from Thrifty the Elf. Um, so that was always the goal, but by putting it out there and putting it on Amazon, I mean, if there's any other families there that do kind of pick up this idea of giving their child a secondhand gift from Thrifty the Elf, I think that would be awesome. Or maybe they adapt it to their own tradition. Whatever the case may be, I'm glad it's out there in the world, and if uh, if people catch on to it, that's awesome. If not, it's still a special tradition that we're gonna do in my home.
Well, I really like that. And I think it's going to be like a tradition in many homes because I think with everything going on with how the world is today, we need to really repurpose and appreciate what we have, right? Stop the waste and stop creating more when there's already stuff out there that can just be refixed and, you know, given a new life to it. It's like a teacup, right? It's an old teacup, but for me, it's the history of the teacup. Who had that teacup? Who made that teacup? Who painted that teacup? So Tripty is kind of doing that with the toys. He's actually saying this is this toy, and this magical toy came to you because you're special for it. So you were blessed with this toy. As your son grows older, what message would you like him to give to the children in his classroom?
Um, That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I guess one thing I will say is that the character Thrifty is kind of based on my son, which I know is weird because he's still a baby, so it's kind of hard to see that. But definitely in the way, definitely in the illustration, it's based on my son. My son has these like thin, wispy hairs that you kind of see in Thrifty. So I guess I would want my, or I aspire for my son to grow up and be that positive light that Thrifty is, that could see kind of the beauty in something that might be ugly, and pass that message on, that things can be repurposed, and um, uh, yeah, just send out that message of thrift, that Thrifty the Elf really goes on to in the book.
Well, I think you've opened up a door for many children out there, like your son having that honor of being Thrifty the Elf and knowing that it started in his home and he can bring it into the schools and into the classrooms. And as he gets older into a young youth, and that he can kind of show the youth, like let's repair, let's repurpose, let's save the planet. So you've started something, I think, a little bit bigger than you realize you started, but I think you've opened up a door for the children to open their eyes and see a different vision of repurposing and saving the old and bringing in the new and that. So your son's 11 months. So how does it feel to be a new mommy?
It's been really exciting. It's challenged me for sure. I've learned a lot about myself too in the process. Um, yeah, it feels great that I can't even imagine what my life was like before he was born.
It's totally different, right? When you have your own child, like it's different when you see nieces and nephews and that, but when you have your own child, it's completely different. It's really life changing. So
Oh,
you
for
said that
sure.
it's taught you a lot about yourself. So what has it taught you to become a new mommy?
Um, well, I guess it showed me kind of who, um, a bit more who I am. I remember the position that I'm in now for work. Before I got hired, they had me take a test. It's not really a test, but it's called a predictive index test, and it's kind of like a personality test. Actually, more of a
Okay.
behavioral test. So it teaches you, or it tells you how this person is probably going to behave on the job. And one of the things that's said in there is that I'm very by the book, and that if I don't know something, I will seek out resources or seek out experts or become an expert myself until I'm comfortable in that area.
Oh,
And that
wow.
basically just describes me as a mom. I didn't know anything about caring for a baby, or at each different stage, as that baby grows. So I did a lot of research, and I really wanted to have everything go according to the book. But the unexpected thing I learned was, when it comes to children, you can't go by the book. And at a certain point, you have to trust your motherly instincts, which for a while I thought I had none. um, but I did eventually learn to trust those instincts, and not hesitate so much on decisions, or hesitate trying to get something perfect exactly how the book described it should go. um, yeah, so that's one of the biggest lessons I learned, I guess, is to trust my instinct. And even though I naturally want to do things by the book, um, i can't I can't do that all the time.
Well, and that's how life is, right? There's no way of doing things. That's why the chapters always change and the stories always change, because there's not one story that's the same, right? So you created Thrifty on the iPad. I'm really curious about this because I don't have an iPad. And I've been wondering if I should get one because I like to doodle a lot. Like even when I'm doing tea times, I'm doodling on a piece of paper here. You guys don't see it, but I do doodle. And I always wondered, how does that work on the iPad?
Yeah. Well, so I'm sure there's many different digital art apps that are out there, but I use Procreate, and if you do need an Apple Pencil or some type of compatible pencil with the iPad. And essentially, it's like a blank canvas on your iPad, and there's different, they call them brushes, but it's like different pencils that you can use. Um, yeah, and you know, choose different colors, things like that. There's, I mean, it is pretty extensive, but if you're naturally creative, it's pretty easy to use. Otherwise, you know, you can watch tutorials. There's a bunch of tutorials on YouTube and things like that on how to use the program itself, or you can just, you know, take a regular pencil and just start, like you say, doodling. Um, yeah, and then you can export those to, you know, JPEG or PDF or what have you. And so I did do it completely on my iPad, except for the rough draft of my book. I did that on Microsoft Word on my laptop, but when it came to compiling the book, I actually exported all my photos from Procreate onto my iPad, and I assembled the book in Pages, which is like Apple's version of Microsoft Word. And then
Oh, okay.
from there, I just exported as a PDF and uploaded it on Amazon site.
Yeah, I was curious. I was like, how did she do a book on an iPad? Because
Yeah.
I'm a visual person, right? People have to show me a lot of stuff. So when I read stuff and I'm like, okay, she did it on an iPad. How did she do a whole book on an iPad? Like, did you save it like pages after pages? You know, print it out, like save it and then put it together. So when you send in the book itself to Amazon, do you send in like a JPEG, like with all the pictures and wording? Do you send in paper? Like I don't know how any of this works, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious about it.
So you do need to have it assembled. I believe you can do like a Word document or a PDF.
Okay.
Because I used Pages, I did export it to a PDF. Um, yeah, but you do you need compiled all in one document. So I had one document with the title page, then I have like one page of words and then one page of illustrations, and then all of those pages going down. And then you upload that document itself to Amazon's publishing website, which is called KDP. And
Okay.
from there, it gives you a preview of what your book is going to look like, and you preview it and whatnot. Um, and then you upload your cover photo, which is uploaded separately from your manuscript. And yeah, and then you hit publish. It really is a pretty simple process.
Yeah, it sounds like ABC, right? It's like, and I'm trying to comprehend like all of this. Like, okay, on an iPad, a little pencil, a little cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you always doodled like little elves or anything? Like when when you're doing drawings, or do you draw like all sorts of things?
Well, for the month of August, it was all Christmas stuff, all elves. I got really good at drawing Thrifty the Elf because I drew him so many times. But since then, I have kind of branched out and doodled other things like, you know, Halloween just passed, so I did a couple Halloween doodles and, you know, fall stuff like coffee mugs and teacups, stuff like
Oh, you
that.
did teacups. I
Yeah.
see, and you're on tea time. I would love to see your teacups that you've drawn. I've always wanted to bring teacups to life. It's like Beauty and the Beast, where the teacup.
Mm-hmm.
I really, that's my favorite characters in Beauty and the Beast. As everybody knows, I love tea, so so I really enjoy seeing things come to life, especially the magic, right? The magic of things coming to life that you would never guess that would come to life. And
That's
I picture.
actually, well,
Go ahead.
something else about Procreate is you can create GIFs as well. So like moving pictures,
Oh, okay.
which I haven't tried yet, but talking about a teacup coming to life, you could, in essence, like, I could just imagine, you draw a little teacup and then maybe have like steam coming out from the top of the hot tea.
Yeah,
So
I'm really
Procreate
thinking I
allows you
might
to
get myself
create
an
moving
iPad
pictures.
now. I think that's going to be on my
Yeah, well,
Christmas
I
wish
mean, you can
list.
use it for many things.
So is there any other programs that you use besides Procreate?
Just Procreate for the illustrations, and then Microsoft Word for my original manuscript, and then Pages for compiling the book together. So yeah, that was it. And then Amazon's website.
So is everyone at Christmas time getting a book from you, Jenna, to get this story out
Um,
there? Like, is that going to be like one of the Christmas
well,
gifts?
well, a lot of like my friends and family have already purchased the book. But I will be giving a copy to some of my nieces and nephews. Um, in the book, the the bike goes to a boy named Noah, who is actually my nephew Noah. Um, and in the there's one of the pages, one of the illustrations at Santa's workshop. It's not very noticeable. You kind of need to look at the page and kind of look at what's in the background. But in the background of the workshop are these wooden cubbies, and these cubbies have toys in them. And above each cubby is a child's name, and each name is one of my nieces and nephews. Um, so each of them, in a sense, is featured in the book. But so I'll be getting some books for my nieces and nephews as Christmas presents.
So do you have copies on hand that you can deliver, or people can purchase from you straight from you so that they can have a signed copy?
Yeah. I don't right now. I did order a few when I first launched my book, but I've since signed them and given them away. But if anyone wants a signed copy, by all means, they can direct message me on Instagram, and I would be more than happy to do that. But yeah, it's it's available. Probably quickest way would be to get it through Amazon.
And there's a link for the Amazon if you'd like to get Thrifty the Elf. I really enjoy the storyline and the message that you have behind this book, Jenna. And the
Thank
message
you.
you're giving to the children out there, because I think a lot of parents are going to get a copy, and this might be a Christmas story for them to understand the giving of Christmas and that. Now I want to get into a little bit of who Jenna is and what does tea mean to Jenna.
Um, yeah, well, it's funny you ask about tea. I am a very big tea drinker. Um, I could I could probably talk about it for the rest of this this interview. Um, I'm pretty particular about my tea though. Like, so right now I'm drinking a decaf green tea, which is one of my favorite go-tos. But I more or less drink tea based on the time of day or the weather or the season. So, for example, in the winter months, I like kind of more like the spice teas, like chai and things like that. And as it rolls around to summer, I always go to the more like fruity or lemony teas.
You're my kind of
Um,
girl.
yeah.
I do the same thing, like the different seasons, the different teas, right? The different
Mhm.
flavors. There's so much different teas out there. A lot of people say I'm crazy, but there's over 40,000 different tea companies in the worldwide. So there is many different flavors and different blends of tea. Uh, but it's like you said, like there's different seasons, right? You for summer fruit,
Mhm.
for fall the cinnamons. Today I'm drinking an apple cinnamon turmeric tea. Like I drink the spicy teas too, like and spice rum tea and caramel teas and stuff like that. Like all the autumn colors are the flavors of the fall.
Mhm.
Now, if I give you the word tea, the TEA, I want a word for each letter. So starting with T and then E and A. What would your T be, Jenna?
Um, T. Time is the first word that comes up for me.
And your E?
I want to say every.
And your A?
Um, I don't know. Autumn.
Oh.
I'm trying to get something that makes sense, but it doesn't really.
Now I want you to don't overthink it, because this is your T, the T of you, your life T. So your T that you've just given me, because these words came to you and they didn't come to me, they came to you. And even though you were trying to make sense of it, we always overthink things. So when we're serving tea, we don't want to overthink. We just want it to be a nice flow, right? But these words came to you for a reason, and they do make sense. So time, every autumn. So it tells me who you are as a person. So as a little girl, you liked time. You did a lot of things work in time. You know, you were in a phase of time making, going through the time phasing. So every right now is every door that you're opening for Thrifty the Elf. So you're in your present. So it does make sense, the word every. And autumn is your future. So the falling, the colors, the growth, the changing, and the difference in your life. So your T is you. We overthink our T's a lot. And I do, all the guests out there, I want it to make sense. Just be you. Just serve your tea. And this is your tea. These words came to you for a reason. And we need to stop overthinking, just serve our teas, because that's a strong tea. Time every autumn. Those are beautiful time. Like the time. Time is beautiful. It's beautiful because it's a different flavor all the time. And that's what you're talking about, is different flavors, different seasons, different flows and teas and all that. And you love tea. So, and Thrifty the Elf, he's doing everything to save the world by repurposing. So it does describe who you are as a person. So your tea is very, very strong. And I really enjoy when the guests kind of struggle a little bit. Okay, I got to give this perfect word. But our words are in us already. Our teas are already in us. The tea is you. It's what you serve to the world. And you're serving something really beautiful here. You're serving a beautiful family tradition that will be open to a lot of families. And your son is going to be really proud of you when he gets older, and he'll be able to say, I'm Thrifty the Elf. Like my mommy's Thrifty the Elf. Because I believe this story is going to go very far, and it's going to open doors
Thank you.
for children to open their eyes on how to repurpose and use the old. Now, in the story, you say that he gives a toy and then he gets a toy under the Christmas tree from Thrifty. So does Thrifty the Elf sit beside the toy? Like, how does he know that it comes from Thrifty?
Well, I guess that's where you kind of need to use your imagination a little bit more. So in this story, Thrifty enters a secondhand shop and he is amazed at all these toys around. And it's the shopkeeper who tells him, well, all these toys were donated to us by children who no longer wanted to play with them. So that right there kind of shows a message. Okay, when you were done playing with your toy, when you've outgrown it, here is an opportunity to donate it to a secondhand shop for another child to play with. Well, what I plan to do with my children is to say, like, when we have our gifts under the tree, and if there's any secondhand gifts, they won't say from Santa, they're going to say from Thrifty or from Thrifty the Elf. So that's how they'll know they received a gift that was picked for them by Thrifty the Elf. So it's not directly in the book that like that's how it's going to happen. But then again, it also leaves room for other families to kind of make sense of it themselves and however they want to have Thrifty in their Christmas traditions.
Well, I love how you leave it open to the other families, right? They can make it as magical as they want or as little as they want, less or more, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
really like that you've opened that door because you created that door and that gateway for parents to start thinking, okay, let's start something new here, you know? And I love that family traditions because then it'll be passed down for generations and generations, you know? Thrifty will go on for a long time. I believe that this little elf, he's going to make an impact. It's like Elf on the Shelf, right? How long did that go on? I think that's like 6 or 7 years now. Elf on the Shelf. So Thrifty might be the cousin of Elf on the Shelf. You know, we got Elf on the Shelf who's a little troublemaker, and then we got Thrifty who's making a difference for the world. So
Hmm.
I really think that we open it up, right, and kind of bring in like a cousin. It's like you said, like the child in the book is Noah, who is your nephew. So you've brought in the family into your storyline, and you've really created a real big family tradition because your nephew Noah will be like, well, I'm the Noah in the book. You know, he gets to brag about it in class and say, hey, I
Yeah.
know Thrifty. Like, so you've opened the door for a lot of conversation to continue and a lot of family traditions to continue as well. So, what message would you like to give to the children out there that want something different in their life?
um, Children who want something different in their life. I'm trying to think of when I was a child, what I wanted different in my life. Um, I guess it would just be to try new things. I know I was always encouraged by my parents to try new things when I was a child, and that served me well growing up. Yeah, so that would be my message to them. Try new things. Anything that sparks your interest, go for it and explore as much as you can.
So, did you get this repurposing things, like how to repurpose old from your parents or your grandparents? Like, where did it come from?
That actually came from my partner's parents.
Oh,
Or
I
that
wasn't
yeah.
expecting the opposite.
Yeah. Well, his parents are the type of people where, and this has happened on many occasions where we'll say, oh well, something's broken, like we can't use it anymore, we have to throw it out, and their first instinct is always, well, can we fix it? And there are so many things that they've fixed. A recent example of that was someone on Facebook was giving away a diaper genie, and I had that on my list of things I needed for when my son was coming, and so my mother-in-law, she asked for the diaper genie, and she went and picked it up, and my father-in-law fixed it, and it works good as new. So yeah, so that's just always their mindset. If something's broken, the first thing they ask is, can we fix it? Like, let's try to fix it. So that's kind of where that kind of inspiration came from.
Now, the name Thrifty, does that come from like the thrift store? Like, how
Yeah.
did Thrifty come about?
Yeah, it came from, the word like or thrift shop, things like that. My good friend who I mentioned, kind of nudged me towards creating children's books. She actually owned an online thrift shop herself called Everybody Thrifts. So that was also very prominent in my mind at the time, at the peak of her owning that shop. So yeah, I think I just had thrifting on my mind at the time, and it just kind of came together.
I like it because I love thrift shopping. I'm like the yard sale and garage sale girl. Like, I have over 500 teacups in this room, and I'm like, I could use another 500. And everyone's like, you got enough, like it's enough, and I'm just like, oh, you can never have enough teacups, right? But I like to repurpose teacups, so when a teacup breaks, I kind of do arts and crafts with it, so nothing ever goes to waste in my house. I like to repurpose as well, and I think that's what I really liked about the story of Thrifty was the repurposing, bringing the old into the new, and just giving it a little bit of magic. And who doesn't like magic, right? I
Mhm.
know I do. I'm a big magic
Exactly.
girl. Like I believe in magic. My favorite story is Alice in Wonderland, and that's full of magic, right?
Mhm.
So if you had a favorite story to write about you, Jenna, as a character, what would it be, and what name would you give yourself?
Wow, that's interesting. So one, I guess another piece of Thrifty the Elf in the illustrations that I kind of did was I put myself in the book. So the shopkeeper, the secondhand um, shopkeeper in the book is actually me.
Oh, well,
So
look at you put yourself in the
yeah,
book.
I put myself in the book. So you know, she kind of has like brown hair. Normally my hair is straight, but brown straight hair, and she's wearing a cardigan. I wear a lot of cardigans, things like that. So, I guess you know, I might dream one day of opening my own secondhand shop for toys or clothes or whatever it might be. Um, yeah, so maybe I would imagine a story, something along those lines of, you know, the person in the thrift shop or the owner of the thrift shop. Um, and as far as a name, oddly enough, I met a woman a few years ago back in my summer job while I was going to university, and her name was Mira, and I thought that that was such a pretty name.
Oh, I like that. You don't hear that very often. That is a nice one. Oh, I like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
So it kind of
you're the storekeeper in the book.
yeah, yeah.
So you've kind of brought everybody into the little book here. So Thrifty is your son in the book?
Well, yeah, like the just like the character himself. When I
Okay.
was, because I get a lot of questions about why I chose Noah as the child in the story, and I guess you know, the reason why I didn't use my son's name is just because in my mind he was thrifty. it doesn't it doesn't all really make sense, but that's just like the inspiration that I
I kind of like it. I like it that your son is thrifty because once he grows up and he gets to realize, oh, I was thrifty, so I'm the magic one, right? So I'm reading all these gifts. So it kind of brings an
had.
open to another story down the line. As Thrifty understands who he really is, he's a little boy that turned into Thrifty. You know, there's a transformation, or
Mhm.
there's so much you could do with Thrifty the
Yes,
Elf. Like I could
absolutely.
see a series of books like Thrifty goes to school, Thrifty drives a bus, like,
Mhm.
Thrifty changes Christmas, there's so much that you could do, right? With
Mhm.
this character. And it is truly amazing what you've done with just a little elf. I think it's going to
Thank
change
you.
a lot of lives. So if anybody would like to reach you, Jenna, they can reach you on Instagram, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to bring that up. So anybody who would like to reach out to Jenna and find out more about Thrifty the Elf, because this guy, I think he's going to be opening a lot of doors for a lot of homes and a lot of new family traditions. So is there any message that you would like to give to the viewers out there that are watching now and that will watch the replay on Thrifty, and why you feel it's important to have a copy of this in their home?
Um, good question. I don't know. I guess it's just kind of like my heart poured onto a couple pieces of paper. So I would just, you know, it would just warm my heart if people, you know, got the book and were inspired to do something positive for the environment because of it. Or to also spark a little bit of magic in their friends' lives at Christmas time. Yeah, it would just warm my heart to see, you know, other people's lives being changed in a positive way because of the words that I wrote for my son Grant.
Well, I think it's amazing that he came to you, the story came to you, because it's going to make a difference in a lot of lives. I think every school should have it out there as well, because that's a good message to give to the children as they go and celebrate the holidays and that as well. So, uh, I'm going to push this book to get into some schools and to the bookstores. Like anybody who is watching now or watching the replay, please put in hashtag replay and where you're watching from. And that's because I always like to know where the viewers are coming in from. If you'd like to know more about Thrifty the Elf, check out her Instagram page. Connect with Jenna. She's very easy to talk to, as you can see, and she loves tea, so that's another bonus. And she's really making a difference for the change in the world. And I think we all need to start repurposing and accepting and appreciating what we have. You know, especially during these times, we need to really come together and make a difference. And I think you have a powerful message in a book, and like you said, it took you less than 3 months to make a book. And I think there's going to be many, many Thrifties out there. I think there's going to be a big series coming. I think it was given to you for a reason. And I think that you can open a lot of doors. Now, you live near the Ottawa area, and we see the change in the fall and the colors and all of that. So, what does Christmas mean to you? Your one word that you gave me was holistic. Could you explain to me why you picked that word?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the first word that I thought of when I think of myself, and that's because I think very holistically, in any conversation that I have, or any you know, advice that I might give someone. It's always to look at the whole picture and know that um, you can't look at one piece of the pie without taking into consideration the whole piece of the pie. Um, and so I would like people, to look at me that way too. I'm not just someone who has written a children's book. I also have a career in human resources. I have a son and a family, and an extended family, and hobbies and things like that. So, and I think all of us are holistic, really, and we need to look at each other um, that way. So that's why I chose that word.
I liked it
um,
because it was different. Because I always get like transformation, resilience, courage, and all. And when you gave me that word, you gave me a good homework assignment because I make these personal videos for each of my guests. And I was like, okay, holistic. Where am I going for these? Like, what am I like? I was trying to get the message of the story out there as well as who you were. And I could see that you were really a grounded person, like the body, the mind, and the soul, family traditions, really rooted, strong roots in that. So that's what the message that I wanted to give when you gave me that word. And I ask all of my guests for one word because it describes on who you are as a person, and it tells me who you are too. So you're not only giving me your cup of tea, but you're giving me who you are as a person. And that word came to you because of what you do, because I can tell that you're a very grounded person. You're a very inwards person that likes to blossom, that likes to flow, like the flow of tea, the flow of the mind, and all that. And the like I really love how you've created this book on an iPad. First of all, kudos to you for that, because
Thank
I
you.
doodle on a piece of paper, but I mean, I think I'm going to put an iPad on my Christmas wish list. Maybe somebody will get me an iPad, and I'll start doodling little teacups here. But I really, really want to just thank you for creating a door, a gateway for a positive message, for a change that we really need. So I really, really like that you came onto Tea Time and opened that message just before the holidays, especially with people having
Thank
challenges
you.
during the Christmas time, and that I think Thrifty will help bring ease to some parents in that. The storyline will help as well because everyone is in financial means right now with everything going on with the world. So I think it came out at a perfect time. I think your message came out at a good time, and it really truly will make
Mhm.
a difference in lives. So before we wrap up
Yeah.
your tea time, is there any final words that you would like to tell everyone out there who's watching the interview now or in
Um,
replay?
yeah. Well, I guess to the point you just made when it comes to finances, like that's a big part of shopping secondhand too, is to save money essentially. So I think that's the point we haven't really talked about yet in this hour, that if we as a society normalize giving gifts that are secondhand or homemade or something like that, then we all we all save a bit of money in our pockets, but also just um, you put less value on however much you spent on this gift, and more value on what the gift itself actually means to the person. So I think buying secondhand is great. I think everyone should try it. Even if it's not something you naturally do, where you might not be comfortable doing. I would say, before you need to go to the store and buy a backpack or lunchbox or whatever it might be, maybe check out Facebook Marketplace or go to a secondhand shop and see what they have, because you might find it at a cheaper price.
Well, I really like thrift shopping because it brings back to history. You find things that were like 20, 30 years ago, and you're like, oh my God, that's a cool toy. I never
Yeah.
knew this toy existed. It's like all of the old toys and cartoon shows are all coming back. They're repurposing them and bringing a new life, a new character to them. So I think that repurposing is important, and it is an important message to give to the world. And like you said, thrift shopping, give it a try. We're
Mhm.
not saying that you have to do it all the time, but give it a try. I'm telling you, you will truly enjoy yourselves. But it brings opens and it opens the history, right? Because when I go into a thrift store, it's that smell, the smell of history, the smell of old, that it's unexplainable. It really is an adventure. And I kind of just go through all the aisles, and I'm like on a little adventure, Alice in Wonderland here. Where am I going? Like, where's the Queen of Hearts? Where's she waiting for me? Like. So I really truly enjoy thrift shopping, and I encourage everyone out there, the viewers that are watching now and the viewers that are watching the replay, just give it a try. Maybe, change one child's life with repurposing a toy this year for Christmas and see what difference you make. And let's get Thrifty out there. And so when he grows up, he can say, look at the difference he made. A boy who's 11 months old right now is making a difference in the world by a book. So we can change the world in many different ways. It doesn't have to be right now, but he is making an impact, and he doesn't even know he is. So I think it's truly an amazing gift that you've given your son and you've given the world. So thank you, Jenna, so much
Thank
for
you.
creating Thrifty the Elf. I think I'm going to grab myself a copy for my granddaughter, and I think I want to go do some thrift shopping soon. I think it's a call for it. So again, thank you for joining me today on Tea Time, and thank you to all the viewers who joined me in the studio and out of the studio with your questions, your comments, and connecting. I really truly enjoy each and every one of you, and I will see you all with a new Tea Time on November 9th when Joy Brown is joining me in the studio. That's right, one of the Let sisters is coming into the studio. She is a career strategist, an empowering speaker, and an energizer powerhouse. I mean, this girl, the three E's. We'll find out what she means by the three E's when she joins us November 9th at 4 p.m. for an afternoon tea time. And I want to thank each and every one of you. And again, please leave it in the comments where you're watching from so I can thank you personally. And I will see you all for a new tea time, November 9th at 4 p.m. Thank you. Just want to get a couple of these in before I close it up.